Wait a minute. Was that an elephant in the office? I think that's an elephant. Listen. Oh my gosh, y'all. Why do we have to hear yet another joke from coworker Carl? Coworker Carl thinks that our team meetings are the time for him to be recording his comedy special. And you know it ain't funny if you got to tell the person this is funny. Listen. There you go. Oh, here's a funny story. If you got to tell me it's a funny story, it's not a funny story. The funny should be implied. Oh my gosh. And nobody laughed. Oh my gosh, this is so painful. Oh my gosh, nobody is laughing because it's not funny. Oh, but my secondhand embarrassment can't take it, y'all. I can't take it. Let me. Oh, Carl. Oh my gosh. Did he just? I think that was borderline inappropriate. Oh my gosh. Somebody help. I want to click my heels together. I cannot believe that Supervisor Sue, that nobody stops us. Every week we got to hear these jokes. It's not funny. Well, if nobody hears Carl's comedy special, then I guess I don't either. Hear what? Looks like an elephant to me. Hey, cousin colleagues. Welcome to the More Laughing at Work podcast. Let's talk. Welcome back to another episode of the More Laughing at Work podcast. I am your host. Comedian is debatable, especially with that little joke I tried to do just then. But today I am a karaoke singer. Yes, I do karaoke on the weekends. I just did one last weekend because that is what I do. And I'm excited about being here with you with my karaoke professionalism, my sometimes comedy stuff, and my human resources background. Each week, you tune in and I be talking your head off. Whatever. Each week we coming together, y'all, for a weekly. What do we do? We're getting inspired so that we can go to work and be our best selves. Because since we got to do it anyway, let's just do it big, right? Let's do it good. Let's do it right. We are also coming together to form our little coworker community that I don't know about you, but I wish that I have had in many of my job. And also we are just, building our network of professionals that we want to be like when we grow up. Because today, if you're feeling like me, I'm not feeling too grown. Listen, I'm not feeling too grown because, hold on, let me take that back. Let me take it. I am feeling grown. This is, can you feel the air? It is May, huh? It is May, and May is my birthday. Pew, 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 pew. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is my birthday. And for my birthday, just over the last couple of weeks, I've been really feeling like mature energy. I'm just like, okay, this is the year. This is it right here. This is the one where I'm going to be mature. I'm going to be an adult because, I have no more excuses. When I was in my 20s, I could be like, well, I'm in my 20s. And then in 30s, like, well, technically you're still young. Now, at this point, I'm just a whole real adult and I got to act like it. And so I'm starting that today, actually. So you're welcome. So today, it's all about maturity. Even this episode is like a little mature theme. You heard about like our office elephant where Carl don't know how to shut up with them fake jokes. Not fake jokes. They real jokes. They his real jokes, but they not funny. Shout out to the people who be telling jokes that's not funny. And shout out to the people like me who have secondhand embarrassment, who we gonna laugh at these jokes. It's not funny. Like, I'm gonna laugh. But on the inside, I'm like, stop. And I'm laughing because I want you to laugh at me when I tell a joke that's not funny. Because your mama ain't always funny. Okay? But, I don't be wanting to bomb, so I don't want you to bomb. But could you just not, especially if you already know, you know you're not funny. Like people will come up to me and they're like, oh, you know what? I'm not funny, but here, I'm going to tell you, you could tell this joke next time you on stage. I'm like, but Carl, it don't work for you. You're not funny. Why would I? You're not going to hand me your trash. I mean, I know one man's trash is another man's treasure, but this joke is not joking. It ain't it. Dang, all my life I had to fight. Anyway, shout out to you who have to sit at work with coworkers who they need to go to open mic. Tell them to go to open mic. This is not it. We don't want to be in this meeting any longer than what we got to be. Why you telling these rusty jokes that don't work nowhere else? Why you think they're going to work here? Anyway, listen, I'm excited because it is my birthday and I am maturing. I am a mature person. Today is the day. We're getting mature. Would you like to be mature with me? You are allowed. Come on in the water. It's fine. It is lonely around here. I'm not excited about it, but I'm going to do it because I got kids that keep getting older too. And if I am not mature, they really don't stand a chance. Anyway, on today's episode, I am so excited today, baby, because we have a coworker cousin in the building that y'all, I may or may not have low-key stalked to be here. Listen, God, to be more careful. Okay, obviously I've had other coworker cousins, and shout out to you if you're a part of the MooreLaughing family and you've been on this journey with me for a while through our different shows, web series, broadcasts, and etc. I do interviews. This is what we do. We had the MooreLaughing in the morning talk show and our This Time Next Year, we do interviews. But in full transparency and disclosure, because here, the coworker community, the coworker cousins, we family, right? So I'm going to be honest with you. Most 99% of my guests are people that I know. They owe me a favor, something, or maybe they might just be a good friend of mine who's friends. So we got we coming in that way. This guest is a guest that I couldn't even bribe, y'all. Like, listen, she wanted to come on the show and I ain't even had to blackmail her. You understand what I'm saying? I'm just excited about the growth. Let's get into it. I'm really excited today to have with us Dr. Nika White. I first met Dr. Nika White in our interview, you're going to hear us kind of share our story on how the two worlds collided. But I am excited to share her with you today because I really feel like, especially where I am, just in my headspace and just trying to grow up here and just be my best professional, mature self. I'm looking to glean from people who, when I look at them, they have or they display this level of professionalism or poise or what have you, that is what I aspire to display when I'm out. And so Dr. Nika White is somebody who the first time that I saw her, I was like, yo, she got it all together. And I was just really impressed and moved by her keynote that I heard. And so I'm excited about talking with her today because since I've been starting the podcast, y'all, a lot of the feedback that I've been getting and hearing and the conversations I've been paying attention to are those around what do you do when the job is bringing out the project pack. You know what I'm saying? Like, what happens when we at work and they playing in your face. They playing in your face, and we trying to be big grown, mature people. We got kids to feed, we got goals, we got things to do. But I just feel like something ain't right here. And I want to make a better decision than what maybe I used to make in the past, which is tell everybody off, and then it doesn't win for anybody. And so I'm excited because Dr. Nika White is really going to talk with us a little bit about just kind of how we should be moving, like some diplomacy. I've shared with you all my journey in corporate America. I've been in, I've been out, and I'm back in. And I know in the beginning when I was younger, I missed some key grooming. I don't in the most non-gross way that we could use the word grooming. Let's use it here. But I just missed some. I didn't understand some of the games, some of the politics, and not all of it is wrong. But regardless, you need to know what you're walking into and what the expectations are of you. Like, how do you just be? How do you be a professional? How do you be? I don't know if that sentence comes together good, but you get what I'm saying. Anywho, I'm just excited about being able to talk to someone who I know has such a very different experience and perspective and background than I have, because I don't even know this lady, right? And so I am so glad about what we're able to share. So here is my professional perspective right before we bring on Dr. Nika White for our coworker conversation, our coworker cousin conversation. So there's my professional perspective. I really am kind of proud of myself that I am even desiring to be a little bit more mature. And I want to shout out and salute any of you who did not turn this episode off when I started talking about maturity. Because listen here, baby, who would really want to be mature? For real. This is not the sexiest topic. And I would like to talk about sexy because I am feeling kind of sexy for my birthday. You know what? Listen, focus. Focus. We're not talking about sexy. We're talking about maturity. God dang it. There you go. I was supposed to be mature. I ain't been mature for 30 minutes. Anyway, I think that there is something to be said. Like, you know, we gotta give ourselves credit for the small things and not just waiting for the big things. Many times I say, you know, I'm trying to evolve and I want to be my best self and I want to be this 2.0 version. And I just don't want to look like, oh, Allison. And I have not always been clear in that moment about what that 2.0 or what that evolved Allison looks like. And so sometimes when you don't have this is the end goal in mind, then it's hard to measure how you're doing. It's hard to determine if you ever got there, you superseded it or whatever. And actually, our interview with Dr. Nika White, we talked a little bit about end goals. That was, oh my gosh, so mind blowing. But in this particular case, I am so happy about having a couple of moments recently where some things happen that let me know, girl, look at you evolving. And I just really want to encourage you on the other end who's listening here to me, take stock and inventory of those moments. Maybe it's not the end goal that you had in mind. Maybe you didn't have an end goal in mind, but there's something a way that you reacted or something that you did that you realized, last year, 5 years ago, 6 months ago, in my 20s or in the teen, I would have handled that very differently. Look at me maturing. I'm just saying, y'all, we out here. I am an adult. I'm an adult. Now I'm going to cut this adult crap off at a certain time, especially over the next couple of days. If you see me outside twerking, you mind your business. I am going to be doing that with my old self. And no, my knees can't handle it, but that ain't got nothing to do with you. Unless you go put some on these knees, don't worry about it. Okay, so listen, let's keep going because I am excited. Our conversation today is so mature. It's leveling us up. I gleaned so much from this conversation with Nika White, and I cannot wait for you to enjoy. So let's go over into the break room, which is a swivel around in my chair and a little break on this Wi-Fi. And we're going to talk to Dr. Nika White for today's coworker conversation. Wait, hold on. Wait, what is it for today's coworker? Wait, hold on. What is my cat to be more careful? Who am I? What is the name of my segments here? Yeah, mama. For today's coworker cousin conversation. Come on, let's talk to Dr. Nika White. Baby, I am so excited. Listen here, coworker cousins, we got a treat. We got the queen, Nika White, in the building, in the break room. Oh my gosh, thank you so very much for being here. I know that right before we hit the record button, I did a whole lot of fangirling, but let me just bring the coworker cousins up to speed so that they can understand the vibe. They already know it's some birthday energy going on, but I need them to understand, aside from the birthday, it's a you thing. It's a you thing. So let me tell you, just here's some of your roses, as a person that got to see you in action. You are so dynamic. I really just try to glean from presenters and speakers and I'm really moved and inspired by somebody who can leave me with some depth, but also move me emotionally. And you did that. Also, you move with so much grace. You really do exemplify the mixture of grace and power, right? Sometimes I feel when I'm in my power zone, I feel real masculine. That's not what I'm trying to give off, Nika. I'm trying to be feminine here. But you really show I need to hear what she's going to say because I'm going to be leveled up. But it's also very, graceful and sophisticated. So thank you for being you, because I am so excited to have you join us so that me and the coworker cousins can glean. That's my intro.
Listen,
Welcome.
let me tell you, Allison, I am equally excited. I am thrilled and I am honored that you thought of me. And I look forward to being in conversation with you today, sharing with the coworker cousins. Let me get the lingo right.
Yes,
but,
yes.
um, but yeah, and happy early birthday to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, okay, we just want to dig right in because I share with you with my new, I'm putting a lot of energy on my little birthday situation, but I really feel like I'm like, girl, you an adult. We got to mature. And I'm seeing the desire to mature, like professionally, and even in some, now that I've re-entered corporate America in a leadership role, I'm realizing, or some things have happened that maybe happened 10 years ago, and I'm like, Allison, you probably should handle this the same way you did when you was in your 20s and 30s, girl. I'm gonna need you to come on here. But that oftentimes comes from like the relationships and the network that you have. You know, if you're talking to your homegirls that's like, girl, I would have said this and that to that coworker, then that's probably what you're gonna do. And so I want to pick your brain today because I really feel like that there's so many people that are just kind of going through this opportunity to make some immature decisions. Can we start there? That's my way of being very, you know, whatever this could be. For those people who are just listening and moving my fingers, I forget it's audio and video. All right, so as we're maturing, can we just get into some tea? Nika, can you please first give us a little bit of backstory with, like, when I asked you about this particular conversation, why it was exciting to you, so that people can know. Let's do some level setting so they can understand why I'm trying to pick your brain.
I'm happy to level set with this topic with our coworker cousins. And so, first and foremost, as I said to you, I was thrilled. I remember you fondly from the times that we have interacted before, and that conversation that we had that day where you saw me present. I was equally enthralled with. I want to know more about Allison. Allison's pretty cool. I want to get to know her. And so it was great that you reached out, and I was honored that you thought of me to have this conversation with you. And so a little bit about me. What am I? I am a founder and lead principal consultant for a full service diversity, equity, and inclusion consultancy. We are headquartered in Greenville, South Carolina, but our team is 100% remote, not because of the pandemic, but because that's just been our business model since inception. We are 6 years old, NWC, Nika White Consulting, and we intersect the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion with leadership in business, working with all types of clients, different industries, different sectors, helping them to integrate into their business framework, strategic diversity, intentional inclusion, and a lens of equity. And so I love this work. And I'm so excited because the topic that you want to engage on today is a topic that I don't really get to talk about quite often. I can talk about all things DEI, but when it comes to kind of like advocating for yourself and like navigating all of the complexities of the workplace and trying to, chart your path from a career progression perspective, that is something that I enjoy speaking about. And so today gives me a chance to kind of lean into that a bit more.
Yay, I'm glad, because I'm glad you enjoyed this, because I need it. And I feel like usually I'm kind of tapped into our MooreLaughing community, but this time, y'all, I'm sorry if this is not one for you. This is for me, so we in this together. But listen, okay, so here are some of the things when I think about like what advocating for myself, because I feel like parts of that goes in with the maturation process. Like, I remember there have been seasons where I'm like, oh, people know the best way to treat me. They're deciding not to treat me that way, so I'm not going to say anything. Forget it. And I think that that's some immaturity there, or some pride, or some ego, or something, where like the evolved me, I want to say, whether you ignored blatantly the opportunity to do right by me, or maybe you were unaware, I need to speak up for myself. And I need to move through maybe fear of retaliation or just whatever internally. I know, like, off camera, we talked a little bit about your expression or what imposter syndrome means to you. Like, some of the things that slows us down for saying, yo, I am my own person. I'm a grown up. And I need to make sure I'm speaking up for myself.
So I heard you talk about how, advocating for oneself is really important. But let me just talk a little bit about, having the self agency to advocate for yourself, because that is a topic that I do believe deserves some attention, especially for Black women that are leaders in organizations. I think that it's critically important. First and foremost, we know that marginalized communities are often the ones who do not have the opportunities where full success is always in reach. Most times we have to do a lot of work on our own to make sure that we're getting credit for our work, that our work is being noticed, that we are, receiving the right feedback and constructive, criticism that allows us to grow. And so we have to make sure that we are positioning ourselves to not feel bad about having to take some agency to help create the pathway of success that we want and that we desire. It sucks. It's not fair. It is biased, but it is a reality. And so I often tell a lot of people, particularly a lot of professional women who are looking to chart their pathway of success, that there are multiple things that we have to do as well and be mindful of that helps us to really reach the upper echelons of the organizations that we aspire to be a part of. One of which is when we advocate for ourselves, it's not just about us being the messenger of how great we are. It is also trying to work through the dilemma of, is this bragging? I don't like talking about myself because people may perceive that now I'm arrogant. And what I often tell people, especially when I talk about imposter syndrome, I call it a misdiagnosis. But what I say is that it's not bragging if it's true, right? So if we think about it in that regard, it's not bragging, it's flagging. It's flagging information about my accolades, my credentials, my experience, how I show up. And I think that first and foremost, in order for us to have that self-agency to advocate for ourselves, we have to get rid of this notion that it is inappropriate for us to tout our leadership and tout our abilities, because it's not always just organically noticed on its own. The second thing that I will say is when you think about the need to self-advocate, let's not put all the pressure on ourselves. We need to be very intentional about identifying people within our network, within our sphere of influence that also believes in us, right? In our talent and our abilities to show up at our best. And so that's where mentorship and sponsorships come in, right? And I know that many organizations may not have a formal mentor or sponsorship, program or initiative, but it doesn't always have to be formal. While that's great, if we sit back and wait for the organization to make those resources available to us, they may never come. And so what I always say is find those strategic alliances, find those champions, and then also make sure that they are well aware of your interest, your career interest, your current body of work. And then as you build and cultivate those relationships, now you have someone else that's advocating for you and being the voice for you when you may not even be in the room. I am big on mentorships. And I think that it's important for people to find mentors across a variety of areas. You don't just want one mentor that's going to help be all the things and to guide you across all the areas. That's quite unfair to place that pressure on one person. Rather, I tell people to have multiple mentors that can help guide you across, a multitude of areas. When I was getting my doctorate, I had multiple mentors that were very specifically in my discipline in my doctorate program. I have a spiritual mentor. I have a fitness mentor. I have a mentor that just helps me with my executive presence. I have an entrepreneur hat mentor that really helps me to build up my business acumen. So be thoughtful about building and cultivating those relationships with mentors and with sponsors. So much more I could say, but I'll pause there because I'm sure you have much more questions that you want to engage me in relevant to this broad topic.
I'm like, you better work, Dr. White. You better lay it on us, dag on to the dag on. Okay, so I did want to tell you that even though I guess, like I said, Spectrum was being a little disrespectful and that's my Wi-Fi, I could hear you and everything on this end well. So
Okay.
maybe all is well. And then we have a producer, Jeremy, who he'll fix it and cut and screw and chop and
Oh, that's
everything.
great. Oh,
But
that's great.
this is
That's
a good
perfect.
conversation. We don't need the Wi-Fi demons to be messing this up because look, okay, so some of my thoughts are like, how do you in the DEI space, right? Like,
Hmm.
how can I want to be as delicate but real as essentially, what about those of us who feel like I don't think you all handle me correctly because I am a whatever, but I might not be able to prove it, right? Like, I don't know for sure that there's this pay inequity going on, but I think something isn't right, or I just know that on the weekends you guys are hanging out. And I'm not saying that it's because I look this way that I haven't been invited, but like, what do you do with the feeling that you can't necessarily prove? And then you're like, I know I'm not crazy, but I think y'all trying to play with me. Y'all playing in my face.
Yeah. You know, evidence is important, right? People always say, what does it say? Now bring me my receipts, right? So we have to bring the receipts. And so even though you feel like you may not be able to prove it, I think that what people are looking for on the receiving end of this feedback is give me some tangible examples of where you were made to feel this way. And what we also have to do is not let people tone police us or gaslight us, because what happens is sometimes when we start to share those experiences, those lived experiences, people will do that. And sometimes it's unintentional, but they'll say, did that really happen? Well, maybe they were having a bad day, or that person treats everybody that way. And it's like, we have to be very confident in that. No, we're not going to turn this conversation to where now we are minimizing my experience and my lived experience. And so I think that as much as possible as we can provide examples, and maybe multiple examples, especially if we've seen where there has been disparity, as you have maybe witnessed interactions with others that maybe not look like you, right? I think that that can help bring it to the fore. But yeah, I think that's a challenge that a lot of people gravitate to, is that I'm not going to say anything at all because I won't be believed. And I think that's the first challenge. We have to find that courage and choose courage over comfort, because if we don't bring it to the fore, then quite honestly, it may never be a discovery that someone can then try to course correct, because we don't know what we don't know. And I am big on making sure that people understand that I don't think that the majority of folks are just sitting back very intentionally saying, I want to leave this person out. I want to oppress this person because of the color of their skin. I think it's just how we've been ingrained and conditioned as a society. So we have to make sure we're bringing those thoughts and those experiences to the forefront and the attention of those key influencers and leaders that can help create the change that's necessary.
I think that's really good because you find yourself being able to gather that courage when you do think through that lens of empathy. You know, we've all been socialized this way or conditioned this way, and let me
Yeah.
give the benefit of the doubt, or let me give them an opportunity, like you said, to course correct. I think that right there can be this well in which to kind of draw some of that courage from when I'm like, I think that y'all playing with me. And I want to say something, but I don't know. You know, like I think it is the, but maybe they don't realize it. You can pull from there. I know. I remember a season where I invested what I felt like was a lot into an organization. And some things played out in a way in which I felt like that my leadership team, they did not support me. And in fact, I got the the whack end of the stick because they were trying to protect what I felt like was, you know, a person of another race or what have you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was intentional to protect this person and at that person and to my expense. I found myself, it was really hard for me to move through that because I'm like an emotional person that my best is connected to how I feel or how I
Yeah.
feel treated. And so then I was really struggling in this professional space where I wasn't really putting out my top work, and I couldn't get through this. I felt really disappointed that my leadership team and my employers let me down. I've heard one or two people more recently kind of have that conversation that I'm like, ooh, I remember when that happened to me. Girl, I was ready to fight. So now that I am here trying to be my most mature self and inviting people like you to help talk us through, like, Help us think through that, because in the immature space, it's like, you know what, forget them. They did me dirty 3 years ago, and I'm done with them, and they not getting my best work. I'm not proofreading these emails for none of these hoes.
Yeah, yeah. I feel you on that, and I think that's a crossroads that many people will reach. And what I often tell people is that we are the only ones that can be accurately discerning about what our needs are, what our trigger points are, what we feel like we can and cannot endure, right? What we have the capacity for and what we don't. And I never judge anyone if their decision, once they have been harmed or traumatized within the workplace, with maybe similar examples that you shared, Allison, I never judge them for making a decision that's right for them, right? But what I would say is that if we can equip ourselves with tools and skills to be able to take at least some initial steps to try to course correct and bring to people's attention the harm that's occurring, then that at least gives us some inkling of a potential of trying to change the outcome. But if we do nothing and we leave, then that's when, what we tolerate is just going to continue, right? But again, I don't judge people for making their own decisions, because I believe that we all have to really interrogate for ourselves, what is our emotional capacity? I don't want anybody to stay into any type of environment where they feel like they really can't thrive, and they feel like there's not a high level of psychological safety to advocate for themselves in order to see change. Now, when I talk about arming ourselves with skills, it's a lot of what we're doing today, just having dialogue to help uncover what are some other strategies and some other tactics. I tend to always believe that when we assume positive intent, and sometimes I get in trouble for this because people are like, well, we're tired of always assuming positive intent. They've been harming us forever. And I say that is true. But what you want to think about is, what is the end goal? And most often, when I think about what my end goal is, when I'm trying to confront something that's a bit conflictual, and that certainly is a harm that can continue to linger, is I want to see the likelihood for behavior to change. And if that is your ultimate goal, we have to react not just emotionally, but also intellectually, strategically, and we have to combine all of that together, even like building in some of the social capital that we may have with those individuals, if any, so that the rapport remains intact. And why do I say that? If the rapport is compromised or damaged, then we have no room to be able to try to see that the behavior, the likelihood for behavioral change is going to be any result of what we're doing, right? And so that's when I say that when aggression meets aggression, the conversation ends, right? But I like tools like, tell me more about that. What makes you feel that way? I've heard you kind of mention that before, and I want to understand your perspective, right? There is a difference between listening to respond versus listening to react. When we are listening to react, our emotions are all wrapped up in it, right? And that makes us human, so I'm not, negating the fact that that is a natural response, but is it the most strategic response? Is it the response that's going to yield the potential for likelihood for behavioral change? And in my experience, when aggression meets aggression, it does not lead to those opportunities as readily. So we have to all just take inventory of what's my emotional capacity right now. And maybe it's a not now, but later. Let me get myself a bit more grounded and a bit more centered before I then address this, So I hope that's helpful in some regard.
Lady, you giving me all my points, and I'm getting in all my session time. Okay, so yes, this was fantastic. I was listening to you, and I'm hearing. I'm saying, okay, so people who listen to our show are, our coworker cousins. I feel like that they're our peers and colleagues. They're, let's say, entry level in, on their particular journeys. But then I also have half of the audience who are in managerial or executive. So some people are here because the community, and they just feel like they don't have any coworkers that they can laugh and talk about everybody with. And then other people are here because they're people like the me's of the world who they manage that they want to better connect with.
Yeah.
So on both
Yeah,
ends,
sure.
I feel like that you're really helpful to us that are trying to grow leaders in our leadership. And then those of us who just want to be a well-rounded professional person and contributor at work.
Wow.
So I'm listening to you give, you just really helped my toolkit on how to avoid meeting aggression with aggression, especially when someone is coming to me to share their feedback with me. How do I respond to that? Or if I have some feedback to give to, let's say, an employee or whatever, and they're like not receiving
Yeah.
this conversation the way
Right.
that I need them to receive this
Right.
conversation. So
Right.
you were very helpful. But can you give me some tools for those, so I put myself in the seat that I want to give the information, but I want to navigate some of those landmines, and or just myself. Like me personally, baby, you're gonna get these tears. You're gonna get some tears. You're gonna get a story or two. We're gonna take you down from the beginning. We're gonna set the stage and the scene. I have receipts. I have voice notes. I wrote down what you had
Oh,
on the day
yeah.
that you said when you came crazy. But I usually, and I've spent a whole lot of time thinking about this situation, but because I get so worked up, the first 3 minutes, my case is, I'm like, Your Honor, I got the suit on. I'm coming in the courtroom, jump, jump, punch, check around. As soon as they say Allison, I'm like, and then they and it don't play out right. I'm like, what just happened? So help those of us on the end who need to get it out or to communicate, and we don't want the stuff inside of us to activate the aggression. I guess you can't control people, but since you're here,
Yeah.
help us out.
No, sure. And listen, I want to be clear, Allison, because I don't want anyone to listen to this and walk away feeling like we as Black women, as anyone, that we are undeserving of being able to sit with our emotions and to feel what we feel. Because I think that we all should be able to feel what we feel. It just so happens that a lot of women of color are the ones who are called out for it, right? Particularly in workplaces. So I wanted to make sure I go on record saying that. But here's what I would say for someone who is looking to be a bit more strategic in how in which they channel that energy to have the likelihood for behavioral change, right? And I think that a person has to first and foremost decide that that is their outcome. If your outcome is, I want these individuals to be told off, I want them to know that they're wrong, and then I want to walk out and I have to look at them again, then that's, we should be having this conversation.
Oh well, never mind then. You ain't gotta. I be want to tell them off. Y'all did me wrong. Okay, okay, I'm
So I'm
focused.
addressing this from a different perspective, and here's what I will say. There's a couple things. The one thing is, I think that as a society, we spend way too much time making definitive statements and not enough time asking thoughtful questions. I am a person that I believe in peeling back all the layers, asking those questions to get to the root cause. And so I think that an inquisitive mind and being forthcoming with asking questions to make sure that all of your facts are aligned, yet right? Because sometimes we can input meaning into what someone says or what they do, but we don't have the receipts really to back that up unless we take it a step further and we ask questions. What causes you to feel that way? And when people start to tell you what causes them to feel that way, they end up telling on themselves oftentimes. Those are your receipts. Well, you said X, Y, Z, so I want to unpack that with you a little bit further. So let's get into the mind frame of asking more thoughtful questions when we find ourselves a little confused and really want to make sure that we have clarity about what's happening here, right? What's happening here? The other thing is, you mentioned stories, that sometimes when you, and Allison, a lot of people will have this perspective as well, but when they tell stories, stories, we're using feel words, and feel words, you can't help but to be drawn into the emotion of the person, which allows you to then have a certain level of empathy and compassion for that person. And so I do believe that stories are really critical. It takes a level of vulnerability, and so people have to make sure that they are emotionally, prepared to share those stories, especially if they sense that the stories could send them on this spiral of emotions. But stories can be really good. So don't be afraid to share stories if you feel comfortable that the stories are not going to be used against you, right? Sometimes people will hear the stories and they don't know what to do with the emotions. And so it can create a negative, impact. But, again, I think framing the story in a way that really helps you to get your point across can be useful. The other thing, too, is I believe in community. I believe that no one gets to where they are, on their own. It takes having a safe place where we can be brave, where we can be vulnerable, where we can cry, where we can vent, where we can say all of the aggressive things that we want to say to the person, but we say it to our community, our safe community, right? So get you a tribe. All those emotions, like I said before, they are real. I don't want you to suppress those. I just want you to be strategic about when you allow them to show forth, because I never want someone's emotional state to be weaponized against them. And oftentimes that is what can happen in spaces that are unhealthy and toxic and traumatizing for people of color. And so, we have to just make sure that we are mindful too that having influence and being effective doesn't always have to look like a lion roaring, right? And I think sometimes that is where we gravitate to immediately. And I just want us to be thoughtful about that. One of my favorite, quotes that always has a picture of like Rosa Parks is that, says something along the lines of a lion doesn't always have to roar. And the picture of Rosa Parks, it just amplifies that her sweet, sweet spirit just sat in her seat and she just said, no, I'm not moving. She didn't yell it. She didn't scream it. She didn't kick. She didn't fight. No, I'm not moving. And how powerful of a position that she took, right? That so many of us continue to refer back to. And so I'm not saying that we don't need protests, that we don't need power to the people. I think that all of that has its place and its time. I just want us to be thoughtful about what is our end goal in this situation and in this moment, and what is going to be most appropriate for us to reach that end goal. That's what I have to share.
Oh, this is good. I appreciate you so much. Look, baby, listen, you have made me I'm an elevated professional. I just feel like my value just went up. I need to humble myself because I'm about to go outside in the middle of the street and be like, first of all, I was on the call with Dr. White, and I am a more mature professional.
There
Yes,
you
thank you.
go. There you
Thank you.
go. There you go. Um, the last thing that I'll share with you, and you may have some other questions, I don't know, but I am watching the time because I know that I think when we first talked, you have a certain window for these conversations, but you used the word ego early on in our conversation today. And I think it was around the notion of, when you behave a certain way, people may sometimes perceive that we have this big ego. One of the things that I talk about quite often is how an ego can be a hidden superpower for people of color in the workplace. And so I just want to lean into that for a second, because
Please,
sometimes
yes.
right now we will weaponize ego. And I realize that we've weaponized the definition of ego, and we have allowed it to put underrepresented groups, or I like to say underestimated groups, at a disadvantage in the workplace, because ego has been predominantly used as a tool of power and control by those who are in privileged positions, but it typically sends this clear message that someone has more power than someone else, right? And in practice, it's being used as a covert tool for those in positions of power to keep certain groups in their place. And so whenever I talk about how ego can be a superpower, I think that it's a birthplace of confidence, right? And
Yeah.
so because we have for so many years felt underestimated, divested, and, psychologically unsafe, we need some tools in our toolbox to help combat and battle microaggressions, feeling unacknowledged, having our contributions to be devalued. And I think that's where that ego or that confidence can really help us out. Without that, we will probably many times shrink before we stand tall to say, you know what? This is not okay with me. This happened and it's not okay with me. And I want you to understand why. But without that ego, it's hard for us to find that courage and to advocate for ourselves. Again, I'm trying to bring it back full circle because I think there's
Yeah.
great power to it. you know, ego, sometimes when we think about ego, it is, I'm walking into the room with my chest held high, but no, it's also about being confident enough to wear our natural hair and our locks, right? When society
Yeah.
tells us that, that's not
Yeah.
professional, right? Or speaking with a confident tone, feeling comfortable expressing our cultural traditions, being willing to publicly take credit for our ideas instead of let somebody else to give that credit to someone else, I think also that ego builds agency and action. We can really feel, especially if we're in hostile environments, it can stifle our potential of being able to show up at our best and to pursue certain, opportunities. And so, that upward mobility is really important for us. And so, again, I just want to bring full circle that there is a lot of power, I believe, in leveraging ego, which is a hidden superpower, for us to stand tall and to stand in our value and our worth. And so I wanted to share that with you as well.
Yes, no, that's good because it really just for me reset and just helped me to evolve my mindset because I have found myself kind of struggling with, oh, I don't want to be too egotistical. Let me not do that, or let me not say, let me not act like that. I don't want to come across, ego does get connected to this villain or this negative main character that you're right, without me having to sit in the car and really you smart, you kind, you important myself into some ego, it would not happen. I wouldn't be able to show up. And so I feel like you just gave me permission and some grace there, and just empowered us to rethink about some of these words that we're allowing outsiders to shape, or these boxes to put us in. Okay,
No,
I would love to
absolutely.
talk to you forever. I do have one final question. Okay,
Okay.
this is, and I'm not gonna pastor us to death because I'm good for one more thing and one more, and before we go, but okay.
I'm about to close
So
out, but one more thing.
yes, but one more thing, my close, and then of course, anything, if your last thing, notes or message, but one little further piece of picking up the brain, because I do see myself as someone who supports some of the DEI and be the belonging, work
Yeah.
piece. My question to you, and some questions that I get from like some of my peers, especially with me starting this podcast, they're like, well, girl, our company is not going to bring in a consultant that's going to walk with the company over the next 18 months. They might not even bring in a person to do a one or two off. What is something that I can suggest? Like, what would you recommend to teams or organizations? Maybe they can't influence the whole company, but just maybe their little group. For me, I'm always like, hired a black comedian to come in for the employee engagement event. But listen, that might just be a little too
Well,
narrow
certainly make a
minded.
complicated topic more lighthearted, right?
I mean, I'm just saying. That's what I'm saying. But like, what do if they're not ready to fully bring in Dr. White right now, what are some things is, but in the meantime, if you guys are serious about making your environment inclusive or safe for your minority group, here's what you should be doing until you can't afford me.
Yeah.
And now how do they hire you?
So a couple things. First thing is you use the word belonging, and I think that's probably the first time maybe that we've introduced that word in this conversation. And here's what I want to say about belonging, which I think is so critically important. It is hard, Allison, for any person, regardless of their background, their demographics, any person, to show up at their best in any environment if that person is always questioning whether or not they belong. Do I belong here? Am I seen? Am I valued? Am I heard? Do I have full opportunity for success? And so I share that because if organizations who maybe are questioning the way that you've just introduced some organizations questions, what can we do? We don't want to go all the way in, so how can we dip our toe in? I want to echo that because I think that it causes people to take pause and to say, well, yeah, you're right. I do want everybody in my organization to show up at their best because that is how we are going to be at our best as an organization, right? And so that's important. That's important, I know. The other thing is that there's actually two things. The first is I think you never can go wrong if you are aligning with really smart and astute DEI practitioners who are great at instructional design and facilitation, because part of what we're doing is we're warming people's appetite up to even engage in the content, to even understand what is diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging, not just in theory, but also in practice. And so the more that we can deepen people's understanding and their knowledge, it gives an organization this language upon which they can coalesce around, right? It helps people to then put words to some feelings and some constructs that perhaps they haven't really fully understood before. That foundation, I think it serves organizations well when that can take place. And so I never believe that some type of learning experiences around DEI is in vain, right? I don't think that all trainers and facilitators in this space are all created equal. I will say that. Maybe I'm biased, but I think there's a certain art and science to this. And it's not just about being a talking head where you're transferring knowledge. You have to give people an experience where they are spending some critical reflection around how they're showing up to the conversation, what they want to get out of it. So anyway, I don't even like the word training. In fact, at NWC, we use language like learning and development experiences because training is a destination, and there's no destination for this. We have to learn, unlearn, relearn. Okay, so that's that. The second one is If an organization perceives that they aren't ready, but they want to get ready, I would imagine they're asking that question because they do see that there's some value in at least considering how can we be ready and get ready. Then I would say you need to bring in maybe some type of consultant partner that not for 18 months, as you mentioned, but that will work shoulder to shoulder with those organizational leaders around, this readiness conversation, this strategic conversation around what does readiness look like. And there's a whole process for that. We do that for a lot of the organizations in which we partner with, because it's one thing for organizations to say we value DEI is part of our value set, it's one of our pillars. But then when you really start to break down what does that look like in action, what is the evidence of that, you have like a million different answers. And so there's not full alignment. People are defining success differently. So how do we get all of those key leaders and influencers aligned around what are those guiding principles that's going to help us to really engage in a strategic and thoughtful conversation around what does readiness look like for us? Because at least then that gives you a litmus test. But without that, you're still just kind of, you're a wandering nomad. It's almost like I'm going somewhere, but I don't even know where I'm going. What does that somewhere look like? What is the name of the place? How do we get there? It starts with those conversations.
Woo. Listen here. I'm telling y'all, we got some professional development today. I really appreciate you. I just know that, those of us who are a part of this conversation will be able to show up so much better, just even effective tomorrow, effective later today. Thank you for just all your entire journey who got you this sharp and poised. I can only imagine some of the lonely nights, but the lonely nights was not in vain, baby, because listen here, I'm gleaning. I am certainly gleaning. Do you have any closing thoughts that you want to share with our coworker cousins? I know that they're sharing to you. Thank you.
Oh, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Allison. I want to thank the coworker cousins that are tuning in and will hopefully glean some really useful information from what I've shared today. Something new that I would like to socialize that perhaps you aren't aware of because it was not in place when we last connected. But I have released book number 3 earlier this year. You can see it in the background.
Shout out.
It's called Inclusion Uncomplicated, A Transformative Guide to Simplify DEI. And it's my publisher is Forbes Books. And the book is available anywhere where you like to purchase your books. Go to the airports, go to Target, go to Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, wherever you like to purchase your books, even local Black-owned bookstores. I want to put that little plug in there too.
Nice.
And, it's available in Kindle and audio and hard copy. But I want this to really help transform people into thinking more intently about how can I not let the fact that this body of work feels so daunting to where it prevents me from really engaging in the work, because too many people right now are on the sidelines, and we need more people actually in on the field. And so hopefully people will be interested and they will purchase the book. And I would love to be in conversation with anyone around maybe what you're learning as you start to read the book. But Inclusion Uncomplicated.
Oh yeah, no, that'll be fun. As soon as I get let me get the episode 10 up under my belt here, some consistency. Me and the coworker cousins. Well, first of all, can you hear my kid coming in the garage?
I cannot. It always happens at the most inopportune times, right? Hey, such is life.
He came and asked me,
it, right?
He said, "Mom, are you about to record?" I said, "Yes." He said to himself, "Let me come back in 30 minutes." Anyway, I think maybe that would be something cool too, because I want to incorporate within our community like some reading, because I don't like the fact that people say, if you don't want Black people to know, you put it in a book. And I'm like, first of all,
I know.
First of all, it's a little
Right.
too close to comfort for me. But I think
It's like the nerve of you. I mean, you actually gonna say it?
that's what I'm saying. Like, you keep that to your daggone self, daggone it. I know I ain't read this book. It's took me 3 years, but you shut up. You shut your mouth. I've been busy trying to catch up with this pay disparity. Anyway, let me focus. But yeah, that would be so cool to do a book club reading your book, or
I
even
love
in my
that.
this time next year. I have a this time next year accountability group. It's like where you see yourself this time next year. Just do something once a week. But so okay, so we go to your website. Is it
And my website, so NikaWhite.com, really easy. I also have a website that's NikaWhiteSpeaks.com. That is more of a website for my speaking, opportunities. But NikaWhite.com is more of the full suite of business offerings that we have under the DEI consultancy NWC.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being amazing.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
the work, and thank you for just shattering some ceilings and things for others of us to be able to come through and be taken seriously. Because, baby, they take you seriously out here in these streets, period. Even my assistant, my executive assistant, she was like, girl, you about to have Nika White up there. Do you understand what this means? I was
I
like,
love
oh, you know
that.
what? Period. So thank you so very much. We're really glad to have you on the More Laughing at Work podcast.
Yes. Fantastic.
We say toodles to sign out, but you ain't got to say that if that's not cool enough. But if you want to throw up a quick toodle,
Toodles.
toodles,
Toodles.
yeah. Welcome back. All right, so listen here. I told y'all, I told you that it was gonna be a good conversation for real. I don't just stalk anybody. Okay, I am very particular about who I stalk and invite to be on this show. One more time, I'm saying one more time, like there's a live audience. You the live audience. Thank you for being live. You live right now. You listening. So one more time for Dr. Nika White. Thank you, Nika, for coming and leveling us up. Because period, I'm on some maturity. Um, Dr. White, author, speaker, DEI expert. Stay connected to her. Read the book, like she said, and let her know that you came over from Team More Laughing. You can't. You're a coworker cousin, and we were in on that conversation. So can we now get into this? Can we do some more laughing all the way to the bank, please? Well, first of all, let me tell you what we're talking about today. So we're still in this theme about maturation, right? And honestly, it really, I think maybe the financial piece is what triggered my theme for today's show. Because I'm like, oh, girl, that was so mature. So this is what happened. Okay. So, a couple of weeks ago was the whole tax day situation, April 15th, whatever, right? And I'm just gonna be honest. I did some tussling with the taxes. Me and my taxes was tussling straight up. Now, my particular journey has just not me and taxes. It's it's been a fight, and your girl ain't really ever won. Okay. This year started some of the same foolishness and cycles where I'm like, okay, it's April 12th and I haven't done my taxes yet, so let me go ahead and extend the taxes because there's no way I can pull all of this stuff together in these last couple of days. I think tax day this year was like April 18th or whatever. And it was well, why can't you pull things together? Well, because you're still making the same poor decisions. You haven't switched up any of your habits. And these are some of the things that we've been talking about, y'all, over the last few weeks. And I'm more laughing all the way to the bank segment. Like, we got to get habits. We got to be disciplined about what we do. So for me, I'm in the same cycle. Like my tax stuff is just and it's not clean. And why is it not? Because it's not like I'm managing millions of dollars. Girl, if you can't figure out how to get some taxes on this $350 that you have a year, then we got a problem. How you gonna be a multi-million? Like I'm talking about something. I'm about to be like Oprah. Are you? But are you? Because Oprah got her money together. Anywho, so I was like, okay, what are the same challenges or the same whatevers that you experience every year? What are they? What are those obstacles, challenges, potholes? What are they? For me, it's separating like, is this from More Laughing? Is this from Black Please? Is this my personal stuff? What is this? It goes down to some of that very basic stuff, right? That's one of the things. Not taking account into, oh, what did I spend this on? I mean, came from my More Laughing stuff, but I don't remember what was this on and what does this pay for? And this checking account or automatic draft is going for this website and this business is not connected to. It's just all over the place, right? And so, but these are the same things. It's been like this for the last 3-4 years, and so in my mature season, I said, girl, this stops today. We're going to switch up our behaviors. We are going to open up to other bank accounts. Like, let's stop playing. Yes, you got 16. How much I got? Wait, y'all. What I got? I got 330. Wait, I got $334 in More Laughing and $16 in Black Please Coffee. I got $350, and I'm gonna separate these two piles of money and get it together. Daggone it. And I did that. And then take it one step further. We are going to do the stuff that we've been talking about. I got a whole stand-up joke, y'all, because let me tell y'all something. So I got this stand-up bit about like about me hanging out with my older friends because I love like you can't hang out with me if you ain't at least 73. Like that's my joke. If you ain't got AARP, bye. Okay, you gotta go. Okay. Because I learned so much from that generation, right? Those are my best friends and they're loyal. And so I have a joke about how I learned from them about how to budget basically. And so I literally did that. I said to myself, girl, you got a whole stand up bit about how you need to separate your money and you need to use some of this technology in the apps. Like that's what the old folks say, the apps. They got the apps now that, let you separate. Here, money for, whatever these expenses are. Here's stuff put aside for the taxes. Here's stuff you got a team now. You got a little bit of payroll in your spirit. You need to be putting, don't you think they want to get paid next month? Come on now. So separate this when the money comes in, whatever. So like, I did that, y'all. I did it. I did it. I did it. Now I got about 7 sections. Okay. I know some of y'all income balance sheets and all that stuff is a whole lot more complex, but I did it. And I was feeling like, girl, you better be mature, like old, immature me, because I've been mature now for how long? It's been almost an hour. Old, a little more than an hour. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna hurry up. Immature Allison will be like, oh, that's a good thing to do, and I'll do that tomorrow. Mature Allison says, I am going to move on the best thing for me to do right now. Like, I'm not going to keep waiting because I've been waiting now for a few years. And so I'm really excited. So in our, this week, our little check-in, our personal finance, I'm mature, so I don't say finance. I say finance. Say it with me. I'm tussling with these extra teeth or something I got in my mouth. But in our personal finance check-in this week, we're being mature. We are doing something that is disciplined, elevated, a more thoughtful, careful decision on what we used to do in the past 2 hours ago when we were immature. You're welcome. Tune in next week for another little piece of encouragement and inspo on our wealth building journeys. You know what I'm saying? We gotta get this money together. And thank you, because I want to look over into the bank and be laughing with you, baby. It's more laughing all the way to the bank. Okay, before we go real quick, we do want to take another quick break, and then I have an off the record that we need to get into because I am. Who am I? I am an HR expert-ish. Right back after the break. Okay, so before we go, we have to get into our off the record segment. Off the record segment is where you write in and ask Allison, that would be me, your human resource-y questions. Although I do welcome y'all to send me some tea, a little gossip, a little spice, add to the entertainment of this show. I also want to be as supportive for, like whatever you're going through. So if you got to be serious, you got some real work stuff, okay, fine. We can't be petty, fine. This is the more mature thing. Oh, that's right, I'm mature anyway. Please make sure that you're sending me your emails or your questions, your thoughts, your comments to MooreLaughing, MOORE, laughing at gmail.com. Now, I do have a friend, or I had a friend, I don't know what, I got a friend that was like, they don't take nobody serious. They got Gmail email accounts. Okay, first of all, I do have other accounts and they're not all Gmail, but I got Gmail and you can take me seriously, okay? And I would send you to my website, but it may or may not be working right now. But so listen, just the Gmail free mail. The free mail gonna always get to the, okay. Take me serious though. MooreLaughing at gmail.com. Send me your questions. Ask Allison and I'll answer that off the record. But for today, nobody sent me a question, but we're going to get into this anyway because I really want to tag on to the beginning of this episode in our office elephant. You know, for me, the comedy conversation or how people use and weaponize jokes um, gets a little dicey, especially because I am a professional comedian. And I know that people nowadays are like, oh, you can't make a joke. And, people are so sensitive. No, you just mean. You are. And I want to encourage anybody who feels like that there are some jokes that make them uncomfortable, or there are some things that other people chuckle and giggle off, giggle off, whatever that means. Um, if you don't like it, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, you're allowed to feel uncomfortable and you should say something about it. There are different ways that you can kind of push the issue. And I know when I talked in a coworker cousin conversation with Dr. Nika White, we talked about kind of advocating for yourself and things. And I didn't even think about, in this way, when you're sticking up for yourself for maybe something like a sexual harassment, maybe it's not a minority issue, but maybe it's a hostile work environment. Or it's just inappropriate or it's just insensitive. You are allowed to say something if it makes you feel uncomfortable. So use some of those things that she said, say more about that. Dr. Nika White gave us that tool. Or if you are someone who kind of witnesses, maybe this weird bullyish or whatever kind of behavior. I mean, yeah, we grown, but grown people still do non-grown people things. I mean, trust me, I know because I am fighting desperately to be mature. But everybody's immaturity kind of shows up differently. And so I just wanted to make sure that we kind of talked about that. If you don't like the joke, if you feel uncomfortable, even if everybody is laughing, you're allowed to not laugh. And you could say, that made me feel really weird. I feel a way about that. Even if you don't have all the language, I'm good to say, I don't really have the language, but something doesn't sit right with me. Like, you're allowed to put people on notice. And you're also allowed to stick up for somebody else. If it gets weird or you notice that somebody else is being the butt of the joke and maybe they feel uncomfortable, I am really good for this. I will insert myself in the situation and be a hero. I will try to be a saver hoe all the time, and it don't always work, but it's a part of my personality. I might crack a joke or kind of diffuse the tension, or I'll make eye contact with the person that I perceive that might be uncomfortable, like, you good or we good, and see. I may not always create a more hostile environment, but I will try to de-escalate things that are getting weird. But off the record, if you don't like the jokes, maybe coworker Carl is just corny. All right, it's not offensive. Or maybe it is offensive. You are allowed to say something. You're allowed to feel away. And don't assume that because everybody is laughing that they really think that it's funny. So that's my off the record. Speak up for yourself. Advocate for yourself. Listen, I am really grateful for you all tuning in to another episode. It's birthday vibes. It's giving birthday, okay? Again, what did we already say, family? You will probably see me twerking with somebody's senior citizen walker, knee braces, something I ain't got no business doing just because I want to. I ask that you don't judge, but even if you do, I don't care. Because I'm going to say, judge your mama, because your mama twerk. Trust me, I know that's how you got here. I am your host, comedian Allison Moore. I hope that you, gleaned a little bit. This is a nice little insert in the work week that you laughed a little bit. Thank you for tuning in. Next week, we will be here. I want to say same time, same place, but it's a gamble. It's a gamble. It's somewhere in the middle of the week, in the middle of the week-ish. Please make sure if you listen to this, feel free to leave a comment on our Spotify, on our Apple Music, on our YouTube, so I can know that you're out here. You can float yourself over to Dr. Nika White's world and say that you let her know that you met her here on the show. And I'm glad that you joined. Shout out to our producer Jeremy. Shout out to our executive assistant Debbie. And listen, I appreciate you. Check me out on LinkedIn and Instagram. And then by the next time we have a thing, I'm going to figure out that's supposed to be a smiley face in my background for those of y'all who can see that. And it was so cute. And I can't get the light to light. Whatever. I'm out. Have a great day. Toodles.